Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Motivation Monday episode of our Arthritis at Home program. My name is Maya Joshi, and I'm the program coordinator at Arthritis Consumer Experts. I'm so very happy to be speaking today with Cristina Montoya on the topic of nutrition and arthritis during COVID-19. Cristina is a Colombian mama living in the land of maple syrup, beavers, and hockey Canada. She is a registered dietitian, a member in good standing with the College of Dietitians of Ontario, Dietitians of Canada, and the Arthritis Health Professions Association. As a patient advocate living with rheumatoid arthritis and Sjögren syndrome, Cristina participates in the Durham region Sjögren syndrome support group from the Arthritis Society of Canada, as well as the online consumer panel from the Arthritis Society. She is passionate about autoimmune rheumatic diseases, medical cannabis science, digestive health, Mediterranean diet, low FODMAP diet, heritage foods, home cooking, gluten-free baking, and living one day at a time. Thank you so much for joining us today, Cristina.
Thank you, Maya, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to have you. So many of our listeners who have inflammatory forms of arthritis are immunocompromised, such as yourself and myself, and they may have concerns about food safety during COVID. So for example, risks of going grocery shopping or getting takeout food. And we were wondering if you can tell us how immune compromised people can practice food safety during this time.
Well, first of all, if you could have a designated grocery shopper, that would be ideal. If you don't have to visit the grocery shops yourselves, that's probably the best thing to do. In my case, I send my husband. But if that is really not the choice, we can do like grocery shopping online. Or if you unfortunately don't have anyone that can call for you, perhaps you can take advantage of those hours designated for vulnerable population. So I think they have maybe an hour or two, and you just have to call the grocery store to see what hours those are. Before you go into the grocery store, make sure that you have a shopping list. I know we say that all the time, but I think this time is crucial. And don't make that grocery list on your cell phone. No. If you try to make it on a piece of paper, right? And then as soon as when you get to the grocery store, you get the stuff that you need. Don't start touching what you're not going to buy or products. Just really focus on what you're going to buy. Stick to your list, right? And then when you exit the grocery store, just dump it, right? So that's the risk. So I really tried not to take my cell phone with me, just because I just want to avoid it. That's one of the things that we touch constantly. I prefer that to go to grocery stores that are really being serious about keeping the food safety and everything sanitized. So I check that they have the hand sanitizers when you enter the grocery store, that I see the staff, they're sanitizing the shopping carts, right? So those are the things that you really need to take a look at that. Make sure that they have the lines, that they're really respecting the social distancing rules. And they're constantly disinfecting even the cash machines, everything that I noticed actually yesterday when I went to the self-checkout, right? So we had to still press those screens. So had to make sure that after you touch the screens, you use your hand sanitizer, but also that the staff are constantly cleaning those devices in the grocery store. When you get home with your groceries, what do? Here is. We're not going to dump the vegetables or our produce in the sink like we have seen in YouTube videos, right? And soap and bleach. First of all, our sink is so disgusting, right? I think if people say that it's even more disgusting than the toilet. So you have just to think about it. Obviously, you're going to keep sanitizing, but it's really a not good food safety practice to do that. So what you have to do is just to make sure that you place all your groceries in just one location in the kitchen, right? Because you're going to bring your grocery bags. Make sure that you don't have to kind of wipe down every single thing with bleach, really, right? When you think about the foods have been transported like for days. And if the virus is to stay in a surface, it cannot stay longer than 3 days at a time, right? And it doesn't grow on cardboard or metal or any of the surfaces. So we have to really consider that. So hand washing is really the essential thing here, like proper hand washing. Then what we can do also is there's two things that we identified, right, for immunocompromised people. You could either wash your vegetables, right, like rinse them when you come in and pat dry with toilet paper, no, paper towel, with paper towel, and store them, right? But then before you cook your vegetables, and make sure that you rinse them very well, right, under running water. Make sure that all the foods that have hard surfaces, like cantaloupes or potatoes, that you can scrub them also. Like use a little brush. You don't need to use detergent. You don't need to use bleach because they actually can be toxic. To be a little bit extra cautious, I'm probably going to buy more like frozen vegetables, right? Things that are already packed and pre-washed. I think that gives me a little bit more sense of security.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. And I mean, for people with arthritis, it also means that they'll be pre-cut, so they don't have to cut them.
We don't think like, oh, I'm not going to wash the cantaloupe because what I'm going to eat is inside, right? But yeah, but as you slice the cantaloupe through, you're also transmitting all that bacteria into your food. So that's why it's so important to wash all these fruits and vegetables like avocado or oranges, cantaloupes, butternut squashes, all those things that have hard surfaces, because when you're cutting through, right, you're passing that bacteria. It's important to know that you still can eat like takeout foods, right? Like it's, in a way, we still can support some of our like local like at restaurants, right? Because they're struggling. So, and I know they're taking precautions. And again, it's the same thing as the grocery store. You want to make sure that they're really taking the social distancing and hygiene practices seriously. When you bring the cardboard or the boxes to your home, just make sure that you are transferring that food with like tongs or forks or anything onto a plate. You want to be even more sure to kill any bacteria, then the heat always does that, right? So cooking or preheating that food is going to kill off that bacteria. And also just make sure that you dispose of all the grocery bags or also the shopping bags or anything right away. And disinfect all the surfaces that you're constantly like using. Just
another thing I would love to ask you is talking about some staples that you recommend people have in their pantry or fridge during the COVID pandemic.
Well, as I mentioned, I think this is a really good time to take advantage of all the frozen vegetables. I think somehow they have been perceived to be processed, but that's not the reality. That they take at their peak of their ripeness, so they're actually very nutritious. And I always kind of keeping in mind that it's okay. Got my frozen peas, right? And also having extra plant-based protein like edamame. It's also like a great way to use your to stock up your freezer with vegetables that you can use over the course of the week. It's also, I find that dry pulses or legumes, or how they call it, or let's say lentils, I think they're known better that way. Lentils or beans or chickpeas, black-eyed beans. Like I also have a stock of all the that you can see the variety. I think that plant-based type of foods really help us to stay healthy, and also they're cheaper.
Right. Very true.
And one thing that is very important to know with canned foods and to be very careful is, as you can see, I sent my designated grocery shopper, and he forgot to check that there's dents on this can, right? So we really want to avoid to get any dents, because that means that any chemicals that might be on the lining of the can might be releasing into the food. Other also important canned foods are also like tuna or salmon. They're very good, high quality protein that you can have. My all-time favorites are eggs. That also, again, they are very, they're inexpensive and high quality protein. Fruits and vegetables, again, like you can purchase like regular, like produce, right? And try to purchase, but perhaps maybe focus on those fruits and vegetables that have a longer shelf life. I usually see the ones that come with a thicker layer, right? Like avocados and squash and things like that, right? That will stay longer. Bell peppers, eggplants, and then you can keep it in the crisper of your fridge.
Are there ways to prolong the life of your produce, your fresh produce for other vegetables?
Technically, you know, if you've heard of that technique, like blanching the vegetables or fruits. So it's really putting like on hot, like boiling water, right? And you put in like the veggies, like the let's say broccoli or a cauliflower, those types of vegetables, and you put them in that hot boiling water for like 1 or 2 minutes, and you take them out right away. So that's a good way. And then after that, you freeze them. That's a really good way to preserve the vegetables. Make sure when you have like vegetables like celery or herbs, right? Like cilantro or parsley. So you want to make sure that you want to keep them perhaps standing on the fridge, right? And then you want to get rid of the roots and maybe wrap it up with a paper towel so they kind of stay fresher for longer, right? I think for people who can tolerate eating a little bit of meat here and there, it's fine. Again, it's actually one of those food products that you can buy in advance, even for a month, right? Or 2 months or even 3 months in advance. You can pre-pack it in like Ziploc bags, right? You can label it and put it in your freezer if you have maybe an additional freezer in the basement or somewhere else. Those are the types of foods that you can actually keep for longer. Other things that I would say I'll keep in my pantry is whole grains. That doesn't have to be like gluten-free whole grains. It could be any whole grain, right? It's like a whole wheat, or you can experiment with amaranth. You can do like a buckwheat if you want to have maybe a different type of porridge in the morning. You could have also the traditional whole wheat, whole oats, quinoa. Quinoa is one of my favorites. That's just really a staple I keep on. Also like a whole wheat bread. You can make sure that you can freeze it. Like what we do is that we buy like a 1 loaf of bread and then we freeze another one, right? So just in case we're not able to go back to the grocery store during the week. Right. So those are the things that you can do. Some baking flours, because I know that's one item. It's not the toilet paper anymore. It's the flours. People are stocking up on flours and baking at home, which is great.
One of the reasons why people are baking so much, which is lovely, is it's like a method of stress relief for some people, which actually brings me to my next question that I wanted to speak with you about regarding mindful eating during this very stressful time. So for some people, such as myself, I find that during times of high anxiety, my eating behaviors change. I might eat like less healthy. I might snack more, or some days not really eat much at all. And I would love to hear your advice and your insight on eating mindfully and in a guilt-free way during this time.
It seems that the times perhaps when we're running out of our medication, right? That infusion time is when the time perhaps your appetite goes down, or actually feel like more like eating comfort foods, right? I say one thing, you know what? Allow yourself that chocolate and don't feel guilty about it, right? Just enjoy it. I think it's a time when we feel like anxious, but listen to your body, right? Sometimes it's just a little craving. It's just a sign that your body needs a little bit of comfort. So you want to think to yourself, like, I just kind of breathe. This is what I really like to do. And I like to think, is it that I'm hungry? Is it just that my body asking me for food, right? Because I need to nourish myself? Or is it just the appetite? Is it just maybe a craving? Does my body really need that? So step away from the kitchen, maybe go outside, take a little walk, like a little stroll if you can, and perhaps that's what it is. Maybe your mind was just bored. One resource that I love, and I keep going back to it, it's called, if you see it, 50 Ways to Soothe Yourself Without Food. And it's by a psychologist, Susan Albers, and I absolutely love her work about mindful eating.
Where our viewers can go to learn more information about nutrition and arthritis and the wisdom that you have to share.
What I've been building up on my blog, so it's at www.arthritisdietitian.com. And I had recently enrolled a couple of students who have been very eager to learn about arthritis and nutrition, which just makes me really excited about it. So slowly I'm building up the blog. I would love to hear from my fellow arthritis patients to see what else they would love to see, right? Like take their time. I really love the fact that I want to nourish our bodies. So be kind to yourself. That's really what I want. That I want to pass that message on to everybody.
Yeah, thank you for emphasizing that. Being kind to yourself is so important, especially when you're living with a chronic disease and are in a pandemic. We just want to let our viewers know that they can leave feedback or any questions if they want underneath this video on Facebook or YouTube.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone, and please join us again on Wednesday for Wellness Wednesday, our next Arthritis at Home video this week.